So, yeah. Anyway, let's
So
restart.
I would say we don't have to like
I mean, not like fully
restart.
restart, but
Yeah, but
yeah.
so real quick, since we were just moving heads, moving our lips, we're talking about the Star Wars release, the OP10 pre-release for One Piece,
Yeah.
uh, and then we'll probably just start talking about some D&D stuff at some point. We have a lot of stories to share and just our general thoughts about
And
2024.
and really that's kind of the focus of this episode is going to be
Yeah.
mostly like D&D stuff because like we just had we have an announcement to make.
Yeah, we can make that a little bit
We've
later,
been
I think. We
yeah,
got to
yeah, yeah,
bait
yeah.
it.
We're going to bait it.
We got
Tease
to
a
make
little
sure
bit.
people stay here because if we say all the exciting stuff right at the start, what's the point of
Right, the
staying and watching?
TLDR, right? We actually want people to read.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Star Wars. We did have our pre-release, not this last Saturday, but the previous Saturday,
Yes.
right? So it was on the 8th. We had our pre-release, and it was a pretty big turnout. Like we had 13 players sign up. I think by the end of the night, a couple people dropped.
As always with pre-release
Yeah,
events.
it usually happens. And so we had a solid like 8 people. I think it's 8 or 9 people. We
Yep.
went 3 rounds, and yeah, no, it was good. Like, no, we had 9 people because I had to
It was
buy the
9.
first
Yep,
round.
because there was a buy.
Um, yeah, so we've been seeing a really nice kind of influx of people coming in, finding our spot, playing Star Wars, kind of getting into the game. We saw a couple new people throughout the week last week came in and started picking up some of the older stuff. Saturday, our actual release. Yeah, we're down to like I think 2 boxes left of the new set.
I mean that's
and 2 starter decks.
We haven't seen it move like that since
Right,
release.
right.
And that was people just buying up boxes to chase,
even picking up, 5 carbonite boxes, not gonna lie.
Uh-huh. How many did we get in total?
10.
We got 12
We
total.
got 12 total.
We got 12 total. You have bought almost half of them.
Yeah, because I think we opened one for packs. We opened one.
We did open. We opened the one. We opened the one for packs. Yeah.
I mean, I like my shinies.
I'm aware.
And honestly, I was kind of showcase hunting. Not gonna lie.
Of course. Well, because they made it so much easier with the carbonite.
Right. The carbonite packs are 1 showcase for every 2 boxes. I think it comes like 8 to a box. Eight carbonite boxes to a case.
4.
Is it 4? It's
4.
a 4. Okay, so it's 4. So 1 out of 2 per case.
Yeah, I mean that's way better than what was going on with
one
boxes.
per 12 in the regular boxes, and they did say they adjusted their numbers as well. So like with this set at least, they lowered the number of rares and increased the number of legendary chance percentage wise. Not the numbers per set, but basically there are there's more of a chance to get a legendary per pack now instead. So they adjusted all of the numbers to make it so that legendary is more likely. And I read on their official website they were doing the same thing with like showcases. So now instead of it being like 1 per 12 boxes possible, I think it was like somewhere around like 1 per 10 or 1 per 8, something like that. Making it a little bit easier to get them, which I think is good. As somebody who collects the game and not just plays it, it made more sense for me to buy carbonite boxes to get the showcases, to get the prestige cards, to get the hyperspaces, that kind of thing, because I fill out a binder that way. And it's so much easier to fill out a hyperspace binder when half the cards in the pack are hyperspace.
Yes, it makes it go a lot faster. But then also we have to talk about how they did decide to give them different set numbers.
Oh my god. So again, as a collector, I damn near had an ulcer when I saw that so there are apparently 5 different cards now. It's the normal printing and has I think it's like 260 cards or something like that in the normal printing. Then the foils have their own numbers, which are past the 260 mark. Then the hyperspace normal printings all have numbers past the foil, or not. It's not past the foil marks, past the regular printing. So it's basically now it's regular printing, hyperspace printing, foil regular printing, foil hyperspace printing, then the showcases, and then the prestiges. The
Yes.
prestige, yeah, because it goes showcases, then prestiges, and they all have different numbers. And Fantasy Flight decided to put out specifically new Twin Suns deck boxes,
Yes, that have the
and there are hyperspace foils in the deck boxes
of
that
the
are
OG
promotion
bases.
of the original 30 hit point bases and the experience and shield token,
Ooh, I didn't even think about that.
and all of those are numbered.
Don't you love collecting, guys?
Yeah, it's
Don't you
so
love
awesome.
collecting?
I'm just gonna be spending so much money.
This is how Pokemon players feel. Because, Pokemon, it's like, oh, you have your base set, like 151.
Mm-hmm.
There are like 190 some cards in the 151 set.
That's crazy.
Because of all of the alt arts and
right.
stuff. But, I don't know, I just remember you telling me that is hilarious to me. Because...
So I'm basically just going to be limiting myself to collecting hyperspaces and then prestige cards and then showcases. Yes. I think what I might end up doing is I might just condense all of my showcases down into one binder and just like leave slots available for all the ones that I'm missing, because eventually I plan on collecting them all.
Yeah, I mean, but stuff like showcases, those are expensive. It's a chase, and obviously you want to try and open it before you buy.
Sure.
I think that's every collector, because if you just buy everything, whatever.
Yeah. So, dude, honestly, our team is looking really good.
I'm excited.
I think we've got about eight players, because it's me, Braden, Jones and LeBrandon,
yep.
Brett, Mike, and Chris.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm forgetting somebody, and they're gonna yell at me if I forget them.
I'm trying to remember too, because it's part of my job to remember this stuff.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Whoever it is, I'm sure they might yell at us in chat.
Probably.
If they're a real team member, they're watching right now. They can call us out. If they were,
real team members.
If they're a real team member,
But suffice to say, like, everybody that went to Atlanta, or everybody that's going to Atlanta, is pretty much the same team as everybody that went. Oh, Joey,
there it is.
Joey, there it is.
8th. Shout out.
Yeah, I had to remember, because like everybody went to St. Augustine.
Yes.
Was the original 6 team members, and then we added 2 new guys. So yeah, everybody's looking great. The decks are looking like they're coming along really nice. We did find out that set 4 is going to be legal in the Atlanta tournament, so we're toying with that. We're making changes. We're updating decks. I am really liking Piet. Admiral Piet is really fun, and he's competitive. So I get the fun deck, as well as it being
a meta deck.
I wouldn't say it's meta. I think it's competitive. It's yet to be seen as to whether or not it's going to be meta or not. Because I think Kasuda is going to be the one.
I've been noticing the price, because all I can really watch at the price, because I don't play as much as you guys, nowhere near as much. But I see the prices of the cards, so and that Kazuda showcase is just
slowly growing,
trending up.
Yep.
So that tells me,
and it's mainly because he's a value engine.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that you're getting an action and then getting a free action on top of it. So like, especially like in this set, you are getting a decent number of units that have some sort of detriment, but they are really good for their cost. So like, there's the 3-drop 4/4 ambusher, right? Really good on ground, ambush in, take out something with 4 health on it. You can take out a lot of turn 1 plays. You can take out a lot of turn 2 plays, honestly, with that. I mean, you basically have the same stat line as K2SO, which is a mainstay staple in a lot of the red aggro decks. And the drawback being that when you start the regroup phase, you have to defeat him. So Kazuda can just exhaust, hey, he doesn't do that anymore.
Yep.
Because it's for the round.
Which is a big deal.
Right.
It's a big wording thing. Also, I mentioned this during our void talking. Whenever you guys see me turning my head to the side, it's because we're still an open business.
Yeah.
Stuff keeps catching my attention.
Business, so we've got a couple people keeping an eye on
people wandering
on the
around
right now, but we got people coming in and out. But
it always makes me turn my head.
We make money.
It's nice.
So I'm really thinking that Kazuda is going to break through. If any of the leaders in this set, it's probably going to be either Kazuda or it's going to be Piet that are going to break through that meta barrier.
I know there's a lot of talk about MOBA too.
So this is just my personal opinion,
Hmm.
right? I like the Boba leader. At the same time, I understand like you can't really focus the entirety of the deck around his ability,
Yeah.
right? Because he only adds one additional like chip damage in, and it's only when you trigger it with non-combat damage, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So indirect damage works. Things like open fire, daring raid, the direct damaging, the new IG 2000 pings 3 units, that's considered non-combat damage, and you exhaust him, and hey, he adds an extra damage. I think the big benefit of playing that deck though is that you're not really focusing on his ability. His ability's nice.
Hmm.
You trigger it as often as you can, but you're trying to play like value units so that when he flips, he adds +4/+4 to any vehicle that he flips to, and he
Which
flips
is
on
that's
five,
a
six.
that's a
He
big
flips
deal.
on six. Yeah.
Plus four,
So
plus four. I mean, especially because a lot of the bases being run aren't at 30 health.
right. A lot of the bases in the meta are still the 25 hit point bases from set one.
They just
Um,
have some of the better abilities. It seems
some of
like.
the new bases are good though. I really am a fan of Thermal Oscillator. I love the fact that you can reduce that minimum deck size down to
Yes.
45 from 50, which increases your consistency.
Yeah. You're just turning into Yu-Gi-Oh at that point.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Who would have guessed? The smaller the deck, the better it gets.
Pretty much. The big thing being that the 25 hit point bases, right? The fact that Boba Leader gives that +4/+4 to whatever vehicle he's on, you're normally going to want to put him on like a Fet's Fire Spray or something like that. There is a new Fet's Fire Spray that is really good on
Yes.
attack, deal indirect damage. And if you control Boba as a unit leader or an upgrade, you get 2 indirect damage. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Because it basically turns that 3/4 into, hitting for 2 extra normally. Because 9 times out of 10, people just put the damage on their base, which
Yes.
in the early game that's fine. But in the later game, now you really have to question,
You're
like,
thinking
man,
about
should
like.
I have put that damage on to the unit instead of my base, running the risk of, killing myself too quickly?
Hmm.
The fact that he's a 4/4, and when he flips, deal 4 damage to a unit.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge. That's
It's
removal.
it's an upgrade that also acts like
Hmm.
a open fire.
Yeah. Which
So
is a huge value.
right. So if there's anything that's already damaged, if there's anything on the board that has that 4 health left, boom, you killed it. You still got that 4/4. You can still swing in with your ship.
Yep.
So I think it's solid. I think there is a deck there. I'm not sure like what colors you're going to go with it. A lot of people I've seen are building it red, yellow, just like in the starter deck.
Hmm.
Um, Yellow gives you access to things like Triple Dark Raid. It gives you access to like the Phantom Tie Lurker. It gives you access to the P-38 Starfighter droid Starfighter that pings for damage when it enters and when it dies.
Yep.
So I'm seeing a lot of. I'm seeing the same Django shell, but changing the leader to Boba instead
Yeah.
to be more like aggressive oriented. Dengar is really good for that. The new Bosk is really good for that because they're both pilots. You can attach them
Yep.
to ships and whatnot. Um, I think a lot of the older decks are going to be seeing a lot of power boosting.
Yes.
Django specifically is getting a lot of tools with this indirect damage stuff, especially when it comes from units. The new Vader pilot,
Yes. The new Vader looks fun.
dude, he looks super good. Like 3 costs, give 3/3 to a ship, and then on attack it deals 1 damage.
Hmm.
And if that damage kills a unit, you can ping again.
That's
So you
good.
ping either a base or a unit this time. So it's a lot of like little incremental value. A lot of the token ships are now a thing.
Yes.
We saw that a couple of times in the pre-release. Um, Personally, I don't know how many cards in this set are going to really see that meta play,
Hmm.
but you figure Sabine's already been a powerhouse,
Yes.
right? And now you're getting access to a new 2 drop in the
Hmm.
Red Squadron Y Wing, which is a 1/3 just like the A Wing, but on attack, 3 indirect damage.
Yes.
So potential of 4 damage on that first swing.
Yeah. I mean, that's 4 damage in one swing
right.
off of a 1/3. And what did you? How much you say it cost?
2.
2.
It's a turn 1 play. The fact that Red 5 is now a card.
Yes.
Luke's
Yeah.
X-Wing is now a card. And on attack, deal 2 damage to an already damaged unit.
Yeah, which is just great. A lot of the indirect damage stuff that they're really pushing with this set, I think, is really helping, and it's helping slow down aggro decks.
I think so, yeah.
And it also is helping deal with how a lot of the control decks, it felt like their goal was to just stall out the game
Right.
so they hit those really high resource points
Right.
where they were dropping, Devastators,
Avengers.
I'm trying to remember the name of the big ships that I kept seeing a lot of.
Devastators and Avengers were your main ones.
Yes.
You had Ruthless Raiders, which was seen a lot in the
Yep.
Reds. Yellow didn't really have that many big ships. And I already talked about green, I already talked about red, blue. I mean, mostly villain.
It was
right?
mostly villainy stuff.
Right. You've got your home ones and heroes. You've got your redemptions, but those were used to either heal your base or bring back a unit.
Yeah.
Those weren't really there.
But I mean, when you're seeing an
big.
8/8 hit the board,
right?
Having ways to slowly wear away at it a bit faster. I would say slowly
honestly,
faster.
And honestly,
chip it.
And honestly, Piet. This is why I love Piet so good, because his ability is just exhaust, play a capital ship from your hand for 1 less cost.
Yes.
So you're playing a lot of these bigger ships that normally have to wait till later on in the game, much earlier. The fact that he's villain green gives you access to ramp. A lot of lists I've seen aren't even running super laser tech. They're literally just running resupplies, and there's a new capital ship called the resupply carrier that's a 6 cost, so you can tap Piet and put it down on 5, or you can flip Piet on 5 resources and be able to play, because he reduces the cost of all capital ships you play by 2.
That's big.
You can play it. You can't flip him on turn 4, but on turn 5 you can play a 7-drop capital ship.
Yeah.
Which there is one now. There's the Star Destroyer Intercessor.
Yeah. I mean, they added a lot of capital ships. Just a lot of space units, because that's where...
Well, that's the whole jump to lightspeed
Yeah.
thing, is a lot of your ground units are now pilots, and a lot of your space units are still space units, but now you get a wider variety of space units. I mean, They added a new Arc 170.
Yeah.
Which is like finishing out that chain. So you had the 2-drop restored Arc 170 in Blue Hero that has Restore 1 and is a 2/3. Then you had the 3-drop Alliance Arc 170 or something like that from the Republic that's just a vanilla 3/4, but it's 3/4 for 3.
Yep.
So that's really good.
Which is just a good stat line.
Now we have a new one that is a 4-drop 3/4 with Restore 2. So it's all Arc 170. You could literally build a deck around Arc 170s, and most of them have Restore.
Yeah, and so you can just keep it going.
You just keep healing. So I'm seeing a lot of really positive changes in the meta. Hopefully we see some shifting away from leaders like Han, because I feel like for the longest time there, if you could not handle DJ Tech comboing, your deck really wasn't a deck.
Yeah.
At the higher tiers of play, obviously. In casual, a deck is a deck is a deck. You could grab a random assortment of cards, throw them all together, and there's a deck. But in the more higher tiers of play, in the more competitive scene, if you could not deal with Tech DJ by turn 4, you weren't really doing anything if you went up against a Han deck. Same thing with Sabine. If you couldn't deal with Sabine on the turn that she flips,
your game was pretty much over.
You were definitely way behind. You were definitely way behind it, because I have seen people come back from that, not being able to shut that down, but it's hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
It is hard.
You have to draw right. So it's pretty much, if you couldn't deal with Sabine, you couldn't deal with Tech DJ and Han, because Han can just get it out so much faster. You know, with his adding a resource ability. I actually played against a classic Han green list that had a few updates at Saturday. We all were testing our decks and kind of figuring out what deck we want to bring to Atlanta. I played against the Han green deck, and I think he ended up still getting it. Right? He won 2 out of the 3 games.
Yeah.
But a lot of that was, I'm still kind of feeling the deck out. I'm still kind of figuring out. Right now, I have a Piet red deck built, which is basically just double Devastators. because the new Devastator is great. I love it. And getting access to things like Planetary Bombardment, which is such a great finisher. Um,
Who's in the chat?
it's Hatari Kitone.
Man, I wonder who that is.
I wonder.
Where'd she go?
I don't know. She's probably home by now.
No, she's still here.
Is she still here?
Yeah, she was watching the desk for us. Oh, she's probably back in there.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of stuff going on today. It's just a busy story, you know?
Granted. Anyway. Moving right along.
Moving right along.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing what this set does for us. Speaking of Star Wars, hey, be sure to check us out tomorrow at 7 for swabbing decks. It is going to be this.
Oh yeah, it is tomorrow.
It is tomorrow.
It is tomorrow.
They stream on Tuesday now
for some reason.
Star Wars. They're going to be cracking open pre-release kits and doing like a mini pre-release.
A little mini pre-release showing off what limited, like I guess a sealed event is like.
Who knows? Maybe Braden can finally pull that showcase.
17 legendaries.
It's 17 legendaries.
Jesus Christ. This guy opened
2 boxes.
One box. One box had 9 legendaries in it. It was crazy.
You know, you were saying they were adjusting the rates. So I think that is evidence of it.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so all right, enough about Star Wars.
I get my time to
You get your time to talk about your One Piece.
Hyperfixation. So,
hyperfixation.
One Piece.
One Piece.
The One Piece.
The One Piece.
OP10 pre-release. We hosted 2 events on Saturday and Sunday just to give people opportunities to play.
Right. And people to come in.
So it was a classic, sealed event. You get your 6 packs. You build a 40 card deck out of it. You get to pick any leader that exists. You have to bring your own leaders. We have some here that people can borrow if they need it, but choose any leader.
Yeah, it's definitely different than what a lot of like these kind of things that I've seen. Are you limited to like colors?
No, so that's the big thing. Even if you pick a monocolored leader, you can use all 5 colors to build out your deck. Just because, even with 6 packs, it's only 12 cards per pack. You need to utilize your stuff that you have.
One of those games.
Yep. So you get some really interesting combinations. Thank you. Yeah, I actually just got stuck on that word. The thing you see the most though is Red Sanji, the PRB Sanji. The one that gives rush to anything that does not have an on play.
It doesn't have an on play. I was tempted to pick one of those up because for those of you who don't know, the only deck that I have for this game is a mono red Zoro deck. I just recently picked up the new Luffy starter deck because he's a mono red character, and I'm like, it's aggro, sure.
Yep. It's just one of those things. The PRB Sanji is not great and constructed. It's just the nature of the beast with him. You want your on plays. On plays are just too strong and constructed to just completely forgo them the way that deck wants you to. So you're either limiting your power to get a bunch of rushers, which is cool until you get to late game, or you run your on plays and you whiff a lot on the ability. But in stuff like a sealed event or in drafts and stuff like that, he is very powerful.
Right. A lot of the vanilla characters and whatnot are good with that.
This set had a lot of vanilla characters as well. A lot of, a 5-drop 8K, 4-drop 6Ks, high power, and they're vanilla. So, boom, drop it. Okay, I'm swinging 8 at you.
Yeah, sure, swinging 8 straight at you.
Swinging 8. How do you deal with that? Because remember, because you get 2 Dawn per turn.
Curl in a ball and cry.
Pretty much. You either are dumping your whole hand or you're going, okay, I'm taking that hit.
Yep.
But so that was a ton of fun. We didn't have any crazy pulls like we did last time.
Sure.
Because I remember in our 08 pre-release, we had... I do. We had a Manga Rayleigh opened during that, which was a ton of fun.
Yeah, so big chase card from the set.
This set, we had 2 SP New Gates opened, and those are, I think, around 150 a pop right now with pre-sale pricing. So, I mean,
but that is
fun stuff open, but it's going to stay up there. SPs tend to hold value a lot better.
Sure.
Because they're just special art reprints of older cards. On top of the OP10 pre-release, the Worlds finals just happened for One Piece just the other day.
Yeah.
And we got a whole bunch of announcements. We are getting a global unification. So
I remember we were talking about that before.
Yes,
where
they were
Japan is going to finally or I should say, America's finally going to catch up with Japan and then go from there.
Yes. So I think they said June 21st is the official date for that. So by the time OP12 releases, we will be synced up with Japan.
Well, that'll be good, and because that means, I mean, okay, so obviously, if you get a foreign language card right now, you can't use it because they don't. I guess for some, you explained to me before, but this is just layman's not knowing much about it. Like, it's because you could get a card that comes from a later set.
Yes.
That's not out in America yet, which to me, I guess doesn't really make a lot of sense. Um, if you get a Japanese card of a card that's already out.
It's just kind of a blanket rule that they use because it just completely eliminates the argument right then and there.
Right, you don't have to sit there and explain what the card
go like,
does.
oh well, this is a Japanese cards, but it's from the old set. Or you have to remember, because they do these alt arts and stuff, they have to they cut it there.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because like coming from a game like Magic where they don't care.
No, they don't. As long as it is a official card.
Yeah, like Star Wars. Star Wars, I don't think has any kind of specific rule for like foreign language cards. Granted, it's only out in a few countries right now, quite a few, but still less than the world. So yeah, no, I guess it makes sense enough.
In One Piece, it's interesting because One Piece isn't printed in every language either.
Right.
Off the top of my head, and I'm going to try really hard to make sure I have this right, there's English, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, French, and German. I think those are the 6 languages the game is printed in.
Right.
Which covers a pretty wide basis of countries.
Yeah.
But just because of that, and they're all kind of on different points. The Western world, we're all pretty synced up. So English, German, and French
gotcha.
are
So
on the
basically,
same.
They're like, hey, just stick to your own native.
Yes,
native
stick to your
region,
native tongues.
Your region.
Yes, because Korea is the furthest behind because they didn't get the game for a very long time. I think they only got it this past year. They finally got access to the game. But so we got that announced. So June 21st. I will double check it, but I know it's in June with the release of the new starter decks. They're releasing 6 new starter decks around that time, and that's going to be the first global unified release. Another big thing that we got was rotation.
Yeah, you were literally just telling me about that about 10 minutes ago.
Talking about it like mad.
Like you said something about set 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yes, that is our block 1. Out. So those don't rotate until April of 2026, so we have plenty of time.
Right. And we're up to what, 10 just
10
released?
Is what just came out.
And so we're going to be synced up probably by the time 11 comes out.
By the time 12 comes out.
12 comes out. Yes. Okay.
We're getting kind of rushed releases.
The 4.
Yes.
And then you have 8 other sets. That's still a pretty wide kind of. And then I'm assuming like the little interim in between kind of sets that you were talking about, the releases for those are going to fall into the same blocks.
Yeah, they fall into the blocks. So the way the blocks are set up, block 1 is OP1 through OP4.
Right.
And any starter decks and stuff that fall into that.
Starter decks and little side stuff.
But those are your big things.
Gotcha.
Block 2 is 5 through 8.
Makes sense.
And then so on and so forth.
So
it's 4 set blocks with
and then all of the side products that come out.
Mixed in.
Right.
That is just a game changer for us because there's been a lot of talk for a long time about power creep and everything like that in the game. And we were wondering how they were going to deal with it.
Right.
Because sometimes, they'll release a new card and all of a sudden this OP01 card that everyone thought was whatever.
Garbage.
Yeah, they thought was just a garbage, random throwaway filler rare. Oh, now it's suddenly worth it. It's well worth playing, 8 cost kid, 8 cost green kid, for example. It is waxed and waned in terms of popularity so many times. When it first came out, it was a decent card because it was an 8-drop 8K with blocker. Or not even blocker, it's better than blocker because it just has to be targeted and removed. It fell out of popularity until around the time that Jewelry Bonnie came out, which is my deck of choice.
Right.
Because being able to take something that's attacking out of the running.
Too.
Yeah. And as Bonnie stuck around in these past couple sets have come out, she's fallen off of popularity. And now he's starting to creep back up again because of the green-yellow law deck that exists because it focuses on supernovas, and guess what? He's a
His kid
supernova.
is a supernova.
So, just one of those things. But them doing that is going to help kind of solidify and figure out how they want to move forward with new sets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's less of a, oh man, I want to print this card, but a card from now 3-4 years ago is going to stop me completely from doing that because it's going to break something wide open.
Right.
And it gives them room to reprint stuff. And change it up.
I get it, because like Star Wars has already announced, Fantasy Flight has already announced that they're going to be doing a rotation, and it's going to be the first 3 sets are going to rotate out when the 7th set comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense. I prefer, honestly, in most TCGs, I prefer a rotation over a ban list, because with a ban list you have to worry about, okay, well, how long is it going to be on the ban list? Is it going to come off at any time? Is it just going to be straight up like this is way too powerful, period? Or is this going to be, well, it was really powerful at the time, but now it's waned off a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk. So they have a ban list. There's literally 1 card on it.
Yeah, and it's just
everything else is just going to rotate. And honestly, I feel like it's going to come off that list as soon as rotation happens.
Yeah.
So
it definitely will.
I think rotation keeps the meta more fresh than doing just a ban. You know? Like bans to me are just temporary fixes. They need to be just temporary.
It's a Band-Aid.
It's a Band-Aid. It's like, oh, we didn't realize that this works so well with this. So when one of them goes away, the other can be, brought back in and brought back into power level or whatnot.
Yes.
So
and that's the thing, and we just got new ban announcements as well.
Yeah.
Or the Gecko Moria ban. They banned. I'm trying to remember. They banned Ice Age. 4 cards.
That's
I'm
move
trying
that,
so hard.
Kuzan does.
Yes. Kuzan uses that. What else was it? Oh, because it was 2 characters and 2 events. Oh, Jinbei, the blue Jinbei. Because it was one that was out of left field. It's played in the Doflamingo deck.
Okay.
Which is like one of our top tier decks right now.
Yeah, weren't you guys? I think Swab and Dex, the last One-Piece, didn't they do like the meta decks? They were playing the meta.
They were playing several of the meta decks.
Yeah.
Doflamingo is just intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
I was not anticipating the Jinbei ban. I thought it was going to be the Bounce Law or even the Edward Teach, the Blackbeard that's in blue, because those are like the things that really help enable a lot of the abilities that keep proccing together. But Jinbei is definitely a card that helps glue everything.
Sure.
So it makes sense.
Right. I mean, it's no different than Magic or anything like that. Like, sometimes you question why they banned a card versus banning the actual problem card.
Yes.
But
with the majority of the bans, I only watched one of the matches for Worlds because it was all in Japan, so it was on their time. Yeah. So, I just happened to be up at 3 a.m. and just happened.
Just happened.
College life, what can I say? And I'm watching their 3rd place match.
Yeah.
Which was between a Rob Lucci and an L. So a black deck versus a yellow deck. Mm-hmm. It was a best of 3 because when they get up to there, it becomes BO3. Every single match went to time. So every match was 30 minutes or more.
So a bunch of bouncing.
It wasn't even bouncing. It was the reliance on the Enel's leader ability, which is when he would go down from 1 life to 0 life, you can take the top card of your deck
and just put it in your life.
Put it as your life.
So they got to hit you 3 times.
Yes, you have to get 3 hits in one
like
turn.
A Zelda boss.
Mm-hmm. And it turned into the Lucci having to manage his deck because Lucci likes to mill itself out to recur things and put stuff back. And it just turned into watching the Lucci player have about 7 cards in deck at all times, just cycling through and finding playing these answers over and over again every time a big character hits the board.
Yeah.
I watched him in the time that I was watching, because I watched game 3. I watched our Lucci player remove it was 4 Charlotte Katakuris that are 8Ks.
Okay.
And these are all things getting removed on the turn that they after the turn they come out. So they haven't been able to attack with them yet. 4 Charlotte Katakuris, 2 10-drop aces, which are 10Ks. And I want to say it was 3 9-cost 9K Yamatos. Back to back to back to back to back.
Just finding those answers, answers.
And just recurring. I mean, Tempest Kicked was played 8 times that game. You can only run 4 of a card.
Right, so they had to recur them.
They just kept recurring them.
4 times.
Yes, just constant recurrence. Sending things to trash intentionally just so you could play something to recur it, and just keep going over and over and over again. And managing that balance of making sure they don't deck out. Because in One Piece, the second that you draw your last card, you lose. It is the second you draw that last card. It is not I drew my last card and it's until I go to draw again. No. You draw that last card, you've lost the game. That is how the game functions. So you're really having to balance when you're getting down into single digits.
Nami.
Unless you're playing Nami. But even then, Nami can lose. I have seen Namis lose before to a Blackbeard, because Blackbeard can negate your leader ability.
Oh, that's gross.
So Nami's...
That is gross.
So Nami should never try and win when it's not their turn into a Blackbeard.
Yeah, no kidding.
They'll learn the hard way. They will learn the hard way. But so those are the big announcements that we got.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting seeing how it affects the game moving forward. And OP10 as well in our market. It's always interesting to see because the East has had access to this stuff forever now. Our meta tends to develop a little bit differently, though, because of how ban lists line up.
Right.
Ban lists are done normally based off of how Japan is playing as opposed to us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like how we had the Red Purple Law ban.
Right.
And we didn't have to deal with that menace when OP08 came out.
Right. So because they already knew what the problem was, they
yes.
just went ahead and said, nope, we're going to go ahead and remove this now.
It's just gone.
Even though it wasn't a problem yet, we're just going to go ahead and get rid of it.
Because they already saw it in the Eastern market.
Right. I guess
so they were
that
just keep
makes
it out.
sense, but at the same time, it's like, why don't you wait for the set that became the problem to release and then announce in coinciding with the release, this leader is banned?
The way it lined up, it was with the release, essentially. Okay. I think technically it was legal for like a day or two.
Oh, and I'm sure
maybe
hundreds of people were playing it.
Not even, because there weren't any major scheduled yet. There were no major tournaments or anything.
Well,
so.
no, I mean like.
But at locals, sure
locals
people tried to pull it off. But in locals, technically, you can play whatever you want as long as it's not a Bandai sanctioned event.
That's true.
But it's going to be interesting to see how 10 plays out, because we won't, as of April 1st, we won't be dealing with Gecko Morias, Ice Age, Jinbei, and I'm trying to remember the name of the yellow event. It has such a weird name.
Brother, all of your cards have a weird name.
That's fair. Some of them have a full 2 sentences on them. It's really cool.
It's insane. The length. When I have to punch these cards in to bring them up,
to look them up,
I literally have to type a whole sentence.
There's a new removal event that is in green from this set. It is a 5-drop. It has main or counter. You can remove a rested character with costs with 7k power or less. And I believe the name of the card, I'm going to try and do it off of memory, is "The weak do not have the right to choose how they die," is the full card name. Jesus. It is a quote from Law.
Somebody left Wizards after they made our research department shows that people like really long names, so this is the longest name in the game ever, Elemental. And
they just went over to Bandai.
And they just moved over to Bandai.
Because it's just a direct quote from the manga.
No, I get it. Most of the events, because none of the characters have subtitles. Gotta sit there and frickin' guess at which one is which unless you know exactly how it's put into the system. Which OP it is, or if it even came from an OP, it's not an EB, or if it's a different printing of it. A starter deck card. Like, Jesus.
All of the fun little subtitles.
So it's literally type in the name and then wait for it to populate like 40 cards.
That's if you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
Try looking up monkey.d.luffy and dig.
Yeah, let's not say we didn't.
But
So final thought on OP10.
I'm really excited for the set. It finally gives me stuff to use for Jewelry Bonnie personally, and I'm working on a couple of decks.
Because I've noticed that like each set doesn't have like enough cards in it to build like a comprehensive deck out of the cards. It's mostly you're pulling cards from every set that came before.
Yes. There are some exceptions. OP09 with Shanks. You pretty much build it entirely with the 09 cards, or blue purple Vince Smoke.
Right, but those are like more the exceptions than
they're definitely exceptions compared to the rule.
So let's take 5 kind of refresh some drinks.
Okay, yeah, we can take a quick 5, and then we'll jump into some
We'll
D&D
jump in some
stories.
D&D stories, and I'm
So,
looking forward to that one.
yeah.
So
See
we'll
you
be right
guys.
back, guys. Don't go away. And we're back.
We're back.
All right, so we left off with One Piece, and now we are going to move on to D&D stories. Now,
We love
not
D&D.
just D&D stories, it's going to be role-playing game stories, because I know you've got some cyberpunk.
Yes, cyberpunk has been my fixation recently. My girlfriend's really tired of hearing about it.
Well, now you can tell the whole internet.
The whole internet gets to hear about it, whether it's the video game or the RPG or whatever.
That's true. I do like the video game and the RPG. So go ahead. Do you want to start with one from Cyberpunk?
I'll let you start with something, because cyberpunk stories require so much background on the setup. I think a lot of us know D&D.
All right, so let's see. Is there anyone in particular you might want to hear that I might have told you before?
I know that the last one that you told, at least on the show, you told us the vampire story.
Oh God, that
was a great one. Or werewolf larpers. That's it. The werewolf larpers. Do you have anything in that vein of just maybe not even a story directly related to the campaign, but just
the same group? I mean, we were friends. We were still friends for the most part. I have ADHD really bad, so if I don't talk to you for like decades and then suddenly just call you up out of the blue one time, we're still friends.
I don't even think that's an ADHD. I think that's just a kind of a masculine trait.
Probably.
Guys can just go a really long time. My girlfriend asks me about it all the time.
So, I'll tell you about one of my favorite characters that I played, and probably the last time that I actually played D&D. I had a few like little games here and there in between, but like the last one that lasted for the longest time, a character by the name of Grug Face Smasher, not to be confused with Grog Strongjaw. Completely different character. Grug Face Smasher was a half ogre, and this is back in 3rd edition where you had to use the Savage Species rules to actually be able to play a lot of these monstrous races. And we were playing in Eberron, which is very kind of like monstrous humanoid friendly in a lot of areas. Some places not so much, but if you know anything about Eberron, the world is kind of set up as you have, it's ruled over like by, well, not really ruled over, but tangent. There are 3 dragons. There's a Sybaris, there's Kyber, and there's Eberron itself. Dragon of the sky, dragon below, dragon of the land, basically. You also, like in 5th edition, we had a revitalization of Eberron, with the Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron and with Eberron Rise from the Last War. But suffice to say, this was set in Eberron. Specifically, it was set in the Sharn City of Towers. So it is literally like a trade city that is straight up all about all these different like races and people and whatnot all coming together. The city itself is built up kind of like Coruscant, if any of my Star Wars nerds are there.
That's actually a really good comparison.
Yeah, so it's like all of the upper echelon of people live in the highest points on the city. And then as you go down lower and lower and lower, you get to the more cheaper areas until you're finally on the ground level where basically all the trash and the refuse is like thrown. And most of the towers float.
Yes, it's actually similar to Hive Cities in 40K as well.
Yeah, very similar to Hive City. So basically, it was in Sharn City of Towers. We're on one of the lower districts. We start off with, it's a rainy night. The sky races that happened in Sharn had just happened. I was kind of sitting in a tavern with my character, and I was there with one of the other party members. I forget who they were. They were a bard. They were a gnome bard, and I don't remember what their character's name was. So if any of my OG group remembers that and want to yell at me in the comments, by all means, or I'll just my phone will just blow up. So anyway, Grug is there. I built him as a half ogre because half ogres got like a +8 to strength. So starting off, I had like a 28 strength.
Yes.
Right. So I was huge, strong, powerful. Went barbarian because of course you do. It's their favorite class.
Yes.
I had 2 monstrous levels that I had to work off because that was a thing back in the day.
Yep.
But essentially, he had a crap ton of hit points, crap ton of strength, almost no intelligence. We're talking like 5, 6. So he was not very smart. And of course, doing the thing that every barbarian player ever does when they first play a barbarian, because this is literally the first barbarian character that I've ever played, I was in the tavern getting drunk.
Of course.
And the DM was Mikey Mike. And he was like, yeah, these guys don't really like you very much. You take up a lot of room, you smell, and you drink all of their booze. So apparently there were some town guards in there that were getting mouthy, and he said one of them walks up to you and kind of like pokes you in the back, right? And I'm like, what do you want, little man? And he's like, we don't like your kind around here. Your typical, like, whatever, right?
Is it like the cantina scene in episode 4?
Very similar. Very similar. Except the guy didn't get his arm ripped off, or cut off. He got thrown through the wall. So Grug is, like, do that again and you're going to be picking your teeth up. Sure enough, he takes out his baton and, like, starts poking at me. And I was like, all right, he's going to turn and just punch the guy in the face. Mike's like, roll it. I'm like, cool. And you got to remember, in 3rd edition, unarmed damage, if you're not trained in it, is always subdual, right? Which means if you get amount of subdual damage equal to your current hit points, you get knocked unconscious.
Yes.
And these are a bunch of guards. At best, they have like 11 hit points.
So, it doesn't take much.
Grug had a +9 to his strength. That's how you calculate that. It's 28. Subtract 10, divide by 2. Yep. He had +9. And because he was a large creature, his unarmed strikes were considered damage for a large creature, which was a D6 instead of a D4. So back in the day, unarmed strikes were D4s, unless you were a monk, and then you got a D6. Him being a large creature, he did a D6.
Is that how you calculate the modifiers all this time?
Yes. You didn't know that?
10 divide by 2?
Yes, and if it's an odd number, you subtract 11.
I never knew that. I genuinely never knew that. I thought it was just arbitrary. I really thought it was just arbitrary numbers.
Wow. So this whole time, you've had to look up like a chart or something.
Yes.
Or do you just memorize that?
Or I just knew that because I use a lot of digital character sheets, it fills it in for me. I've been playing D&D
This generation.
I've been playing D&D for over a decade. Well over a decade. And I never knew this information. It tells you in the
player's handbook.
You think I've read the player's handbook? God. I cherry pick the information I need.
Of course.
I don't read that. It's like, yeah, let me just go read my car's owner manual really quick while I'm at it.
I mean, but if there's something wrong with your car, you're going to. Anyway.
No, because I'm young and an internet person. I go Google it.
That's true. You just Google it or YouTube.
You go car problem Reddit. And then you solve it.
So yes, you subtract 10 from your score, and you divide by 2.
Really just learning new things today.
So he had a +9.
Yes.
I rolled, got a 5. That's 14 damage on a guard who had 11 hit points.
He was very unconscious.
He was very unconscious. Mike said, you hit that guy so hard, he does a complete somersault and then lands butt first in the friggin' window. And I'm like, shouldn't have hit me.
It's real simple.
So back then, when barbarians raged, they didn't get this just raw +2 damage and damage reduction, all that. No, they got +2 to strength and +2 to con at the earliest levels, and it would just go higher and higher as the barbarian leveled up.
Yes.
And they just got resistance to, or it was damage reduction. They got damage reduction. So just your raw basic damages were reduced by 1, 2, and 3 as they leveled up. Right, so I just reduced all damage I took by like 2, I think.
Which is insanely busted to think about now.
I mean, it's pretty good, especially when at early levels, weapons at best deal maybe 6 points of damage. So I punch this dude. His buddies all get up and push their chairs like that whole like
they're about to do something.
Like they're gonna do something. I tower over them. I am 10 feet tall. Like I'm 9 and like 8 inches tall, right? I tower over these guys. And so I have a great axe that is big as me.
Yep.
Because back then you had to scale up weapons for larger creatures. And the first level feat that I took was Monkey Grip. So I could use a weapon that was one size category larger than me. So I had a huge size great axe that I called the door knocker.
It did more than knock doors.
Yeah.
You could split a house with an axe that size.
So that was left by the door because I was told you can't carry weapons in the tavern. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So they get up. I stand up off the floor. Take the friggin' barrel of ale that I had been drinking out of, down the rest of it, throw the barrel at the first guy, and initiate combat.
Yep.
Patrons went running and screaming. There's a giant ogre. I raged. I have a 30 strength now.
Unstoppable.
And I just keep attacking. And I keep punching dudes. I grabbed 2 dudes, smashed their heads together, and threw them out the door. By this time, I hear he says, "Roll me a listen check," because it wasn't perception yet.
Yep.
So he's like, "Roll me a listen check." I'm like, "All right, cool." So I roll it. He has a wisdom of like 12.
So he's not perceiving.
So I got +1. Mm-hmm. I rolled. Somehow, I got like a 15 total. Right. Look out the door. There are a bunch of city watch, and now the gray lanterns is it the gray lanterns or black? The black lanterns start showing up. They are like the police force.
Yes, they were the ones that will actually take you down.
So I mosey on out into the street, dragging one of the guards by his boot, and kind of just toss him on the ground in front of them. And I'm like, I'm young, I'm angry, there's a bunch of guys in front of me that are threatening me, I'm gonna put the boots to them, medium style. And Mike's like, all right. And we kept the same initiative. And so the first thing I do is I charge at the first guy. And he's like, cool. He reaches into his pocket, pulls out an iron-looking sphere, and throws it at you. Now, for those of you who have been playing D&D as long as I have, know what this item is. At the time, I had no idea what this item is. The Iron Bands of Bolaro. Mm-hmm. Basically, think Pokeball, except, iron bands literally wrapping around you, keeping you completely bound from head to foot, right? Or from, torso down.
Yes.
So I'm charging at this guy. He throws the bands. He goes, roll me a strength save. I'm like, cool, I'm good at those.
I'm really good at those.
And I'm raging, so my strength is higher. So I have a +10 modifier to my strength. I think the DC save is 20. I'm like, cool.
It's something 50, you can
50
do.
Shot. Boom. And Eberron specifically introduced a new system called action points.
Yes.
You got a certain number of action points every time you leveled up, and they always refreshed whenever you leveled up. You could trade one of those action points in to get an extra D6 on your rolls. So I said, cool, I'm going to roll a D20, and I'm just going to go ahead and spend that action point. I'm going to roll, and I got a 6 on that. And then I got a 15 on the actual die.
Oh, my God.
So I rolled a 31, and he's like, yeah, you snap those bands. It's literally, I am raging. I am charging at a dude. He throws the iron bands at me. It wraps me up, and I just bust out of there like I'm freaking Superman from the 40s. So I'm charging at him still. I get one good solid punch off. Punch the guy, rolled like a 1. Still hit him for 11.
Yep.
These are not your common city guards, so they got more than 11 hit points.
Yep.
But I basically just cold cocked this guy and, put him flat out. Turn to the next guy like, you want some too? And they're like, no.
I'm good.
Part. And when they part, I am standing face to face with a guy in full plate armor. He has a big sword on his back. He takes another sphere. This time, it's not iron colored at all. It's not that brownish gray metal. No. It is a dingy, solid gray. And I'm like, that doesn't look like the Iron Bands of Bolaro.
That doesn't look right.
And he goes, you're right, it's not. And throws it. And he's like, to deal with you, they have pulled out their big guns. And he's like, I just made this up on the spot. He even told me. He's like, these are iron bands, but they're adamantine bands. Adamantine, or adamantine, for any of you out there, has a break DC of 30. So I have to roll a natural 20 to break out of these bands. And I've already spent my 1 action point. Mm-hmm. I was like, I got this. I rolled. I got a 19 on the die.
Ooh.
I got a 29. He's like, you start breaking the bands as you just flex your muscles and break out when 3 more balls hit you. And I'm like, oh. We call it a draw. To which point, they knocked me over and started just curb stomping me in the ground. It's raining. I'm in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say that was probably one of my favorite characters. And the whole time, this gnome bard is sitting there jotting all of this down. Like sketching things. They're like, this is going to make a great story.
Just a journalist. Yeah, he's just standing there in the back.
That's basically what the character was. The guy was playing him. He was like, yeah, he's basically a journalist. He's just there, and he's just like sketching feverishly, like watching. Oh my God, the humanity.
I love when people play bards as something that's not just, like the cocky, like music player, like a musician, I
mean, because this was like 3rd edition bards where they could do like, they could recite poetry or they could, give a rousing speech or something like that. They didn't just have to play instruments or sing.
It's about being charismatic.
Right. And they had the ability bardic music, but the book even said that like you could give a rousing speech or recite poetry or something like that instead of actually singing or something. And all it really conferred was a +1 bonus to like attack and damage.
Yeah.
That was the back in the day. But then they got better uses. But that's like 3rd edition is kind of where the bard basically became this joke class, basically.
Yeah.
They got a lot of their power kind of reduced. And I think like in 4th edition, they were leaders. So they got like some healing abilities and whatnot, but they were still kind of like just...
Yeah.
They weren't
4th
great.
edition was just a really different edition.
It was a lot different than what we were used to at the time. And then I think in 5th edition, they became full casters.
Yes.
They got a lot of their bonuses and whatnot. I was going to say, do you want to take that?
I got that. Entertain them. I love you all, Chad. I'll be back in a minute or two.
So, we got customers. Business. But yeah, so that was the first kind of instance with Grug Face Smasher, and he got the name Face Smasher because he literally smashed like 6 dudes' faces with his fist. As that game progressed, we kind of developed the character, and this was like before I was like coming up with like backstories or things like that for characters. So, as I kind of developed the character along with the DM, we kind of decided he was going to be this runt from a clan of ogres, that he was basically made fun of all his life because he was smaller than all the other ogres. He really got a complex about that. We rolled randomly to see what kind of like detriment he had, what kind of flaw he had, and it came up with phobia. And then the DM, Mikey Mike, had a chart basically that he rolled on percentile to determine what kind of phobia it was, and it ended up being phobia of cats. Like, I don't know. It was on there, and so he's like, yeah, so your 9'8" dude is afraid of cats. I'm like, are we talking like tigers, lions, bears, oh my? He goes, no, I mean cats. Like, I'm like, the pet? He's like, yes, because this is gonna be funny. So, developing the character, like I said, got a backstory that's where he kind of came from. He had developed this complex because, his whole tribe would basically make fun of him. But we determined that the tribe was very superstitious because the world has a lot of religions in it. All the different countries have different religions. There's major religions. There's an entire country that's dedicated to the Church of the Silver Flame. And we kind of decided that because of how dumb he is, he had like a 6 intelligence. He would worship that primal deities, primal nature, that kind of thing. So fast forward. Hey, welcome back.
Hey, thanks.
So fast forward a couple of months. I don't know how much of that you heard.
I was tuning in.
Kind of listening. Fast forward a couple of months. We are a little bit higher level.
Mm-hmm.
I think at this point we were like 10th which is pretty decent in third edition. It was a very grindy game. We end up going to Fernia, the Plane of Fire, in the Eberron setting. Specifically, we went to a Fire Giant's Keep. I forget what we were there to do. We had to retrieve some MacGuffin or something.
Yeah, the classic.
We were sent on the task. And so as we're traveling through this plane, fires everywhere. Everybody's overheating. We're walking along an adamantine bridge, like a stone, like obsidian bridge with like adamantine like decorations and whatnot, because the giants in the Eberron setting are ancient civilization that was comparable to the dragons. And they were the only known workers of adamantine and things like that. You know, they later passed their secrets on, but they were not good by any stretch of the word.
No, I mean, and you have to remember, Eberron is also a setting that's really big on not falling into hard alignments.
Right, it's very, very shifty.
And that's one thing I really like about using that setting.
Yeah. I mean, it was the first like real setting that I kind of like played for third edition that I was really interested in playing, because I've had a couple of games before that, but like Eberron was like the one, because it had a lot of like magitech, it had you know, automatons, it had technology alongside of magic, and then like the commingling of the two. So it was really an interesting setting. Very much so like Shadowrun, if Shadowrun was not in the future but in the past.
Final Fantasy.
Very Final Fantasy.
Yeah, very like FF6.
Probably FF6, yeah. FF6 would probably be the closest comparison to it. We're walking along this bridge, and Mike's just behind the screen, just rolling randomly.
Just going.
Right? And we're like, what is he doing? I'm like, our rogue is there. We have a full party now. And so our rogue, we had a gnome rogue.
A lot of gnomes.
Well, yeah, like it was so the original gnome bard and the gnome rogue were a married couple.
Okay,
so it was Jake and Lisa.
Okay.
And so Lisa was playing the rogue, Jake was playing the gnome, and the dichotomy of that is hilarious. Jake's like 6'2", looks like a Neanderthal. I mean, like seriously, has the sloping forehead, big bushy beard. You see him nowadays, he looks like he should be like in a priest's robe. They're Orthodox, and you know, shout out to my Orthodox brethren. But yeah, so anyway, we're walking along this bridge, and he rolls and he goes, you guys see something? Or he turns to Lisa and is like, hey, roll me a spot real quick. And so she rolls spot. He's like, you notice a sparking, a crackling in the air just on the side of the bridge. And she like points it out to the group. She's like, yeah, I tell everybody, hey, what the heck is going on here? To make sure everybody's ready for it. And Grug, you know, the air on fire. Anyway, and like he's walking down the bridge to like keep going.
Yeah, you're like, whatever.
Well, he goes, you hear a popping noise, and then suddenly a gout of flame bursts out of the air, and you see a bird take wing and is flying around a circle around you. And I'm like, so out of nothing came a giant bird wreathed in fire. Obviously, it's a phoenix. Grug did not know what phoenix is. Grug saw a great big bird made of fire fly across the bridge in front of him. And I was like, this guy's an idiot. He's got a 6 intelligence. He's got a 12 wisdom, but he's a 6 intelligence. I'm like, we've already determined his past is that his tribe is like primal, worshiping like the primal forces of nature, that kind of thing. And he just saw a bird made of fire come out of nowhere and fly across in front of him.
It's a good sign to him.
I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? And Mike looks at me and goes, roll me a wisdom save. Or will save. It was a will save. So he's like, roll me a will save. I'm like, 3. And he's like, you have a +1. I was like, yes. And I have a +1 for my class, and I rolled a 1. He's like, cool.
Great.
You believe that this is the incarnation of a god just here in front of you in mortal form. And I said, immediately Grug falls to his knees, all 9'8" of him, falls to his knees and starts going, "Oh, great Firebird, bless Grug with your power." And the whole room just shuts up and just like, what the? Did you just, what? And they're all like staring at me, and I'm just at the end of the table, and everybody is dying. Mike is dying, Jake and Lisa are dying, Merrick is just falling out of his chair laughing, which is amazing because he never really said anything for any reason. And then I was like, we were big on passing notes to the DM to like pass like secret information and whatnot, and I slid a note over to him. I picked up a D20 and rolled it, wrote something down, and passed the note over to him. And he reads it, and on the note I had written, Grug will grab the nearest party member and grapple them, and then hold them aloft and offer them to the Great Firebird. And it just so happened that the closest player was the gnome rogue. So he's like, all right, you do it. And he turns to Lisa and goes, roll me either an escape artist check or a grapple check. And she goes, what the and she's like, escape artist, obviously. Yeah. Rolls it, gets like a 17. They're all like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Did not beat my 32.
Yeah, who would have guessed?
So I was like,
+9.
Grug reaches over, snatches the gnome up, and goes, oh, great Firebird, accept this offering for Grug.
How do you get your party members killed very quickly?
Mike was so taken aback by this. He literally looks at me and just goes, hang on a second. And he's like writing something down. He flips open the monster manuals, like looking at the page, writes something else down. He goes, you have never seen an animal, a beast, a bird of prey of any kind have a look of utter confusion cross their face as you have had this phoenix. It literally lands and just goes.
It just doesn't know what to do.
And I'm like, it lands in front of Grug? And he goes, yes. I'm like, Grug will prostrate himself on the ground. Okay, Firebird, Grug is not worthy. And the whole party's like trying to like, man, all right, screw this guy. What do we do here? Somebody negotiate with this thing.
Talk to it, do something.
Can somebody speak
Elemental, probably?
Ignan.
Or Ignan. Okay. Yeah.
Like or Orin. And one of them happened to like have studied like Ignan or something. So they're sitting there like trying to negotiate with this thing, and this thing is like, you need to stop him from doing that. I don't like this. This is not right. Stop it now. And so they finally convince Grug to get up off the ground, and he's like, because he's like sitting there excited, like this god has acknowledged him. And so it goes, it leans over and like drops a single tear, right? And they catch it. You know, it like gives them like this little like this telepathic thing, like drops a tear into a bottle, right? And a stopper, and then plucks a couple of feathers from its wings and offers it up to the party as kind of like a thing, a gift or something.
Yeah.
Immediately, I pass another note.
I'm taking one.
What up, Jabe? How you doing?
Oh,
welcome to the stream. We're just talking about some D&D stuff right now.
Heck yeah.
A funny story about a character that I played a long time ago.
Screaming. I'm really curious to see how bad the mic peaks out.
Oh, probably a lot. Like I guarantee it's already like peaking out right now as I'm talking, because I'm like, I always get excited when I share the story because it's so funny to me and I love seeing people's reactions to it. So to continue on, I slid another note to the DM. And I said, I don't care who has it. I am taking those items from them. And he goes, hey, Jake, roll me an escape artist check or a grapple check. And Jake is like, F you, man. F you. And I'm just like, Grug immediately walks over, picks you up by your head, and just takes the items from you and then puts you back down. And just goes, oh, thank you, Firebird, for your blessing to Grug. And so for the rest of the game, I held on to those items. I didn't care if a party member was dying because Phoenix Tears can heal you, and I think the Phoenix Feathers could be used to like remove any kind of status ailment or something like that. I didn't care if they were dying. I didn't care if they were on 1 hit point. I don't care if they were bleeding out. He would not use the sacred relics of the Great Firebird. And they tried their hardest to convince Grug to give that crap up, and he would not do it. Fast forward.
Oh, God. The story's still not done.
Oh, no. I can go for a while for this. We're at an hour and a half right now. I could probably finish out, like, you're not going to get a story in.
That's what it sounds like. Okay, well, let's just run it.
All right, right. So, we're inside it, right?
Yep.
And we're inside the castle. Everything's like large size or huge size for everybody else.
It's for ogres.
Yeah, it's for giants.
Or giants.
Fire giants, which were huge back then. So they were even bigger than me. And we're inside, and everybody's kind of like looking around. And he's like, "Oh yeah, they've got adamantine decorations. They got adamantine plates." I'm like, "Do they have adamantine silverware?" And he goes, "Yeah." I'm like, Grug is going to get a couple of new weapons. I climb up onto the table. I'm looking around for silverware, and they're like, "Yeah, there's a fork that's about the size of a pitchfork," and he's like, "and there's like a table knife." I'm like, "Is there a spoon?"
Is there a spoon?
Because my logic was, I already had a cutting weapon. I don't care about a stabbing weapon because I can just use my cutting weapon.
That's a great bludgeoning weapon.
A spoon is bludgeoning, and I need a bludgeoning weapon. And he's like, "Sure, you find a spoon." Grug picks it up and goes, spoon. At which point, the rogue triggered a trap which summoned in a skeletal red dragon.
Oh,
because they just keep them as pets, apparently.
I mean, they're fire giants. It makes sense.
So we get into combat.
Of course.
I rolled a nat 20 on my initiative. So I got to go first. And I said, "Where's this dragon at?" He's like, "Oh, he's coming through this like hatch or something that opens up." I'm like, "How close is he?" He's like, "Oh, you're like 20 feet away from him." I'm like, "Cool. I have a really high jump check. I'm on the table. I have a bludgeoning weapon against a skeleton." I said, "I'm going to go after it." And I'm like, all right, I'm going to rage. As part of my action, I'm going to rage. So I raged. And I think at this point I had like a +4 to strength, +4 to con. Yep. So I have a 32 strength right now.
That's insanity.
I have a bludgeoning weapon. And I said, "How much damage does this bludgeoning weapon do?" "Well, it's an improvised weapon." I was like, "I didn't ask you if it was an improvised weapon. I said, how much damage does it do?"
I did not ask.
He goes, "It's like a D8. I'm like, "Is that a large size D8 or is that like a D8 but needs to be upsized?" He's like, "Just upsize." And I'm like, "All right, cool. 2d6. Got it." So I'm like, all right, I've got 2d6 bludgeoning weapon. I'm raging. I've got a +11 to my strength modifier. I've got an attack bonus because they were full fighter classes. So I have +10 to my attack.
Keep entertaining them while I do customers.
So I have a +10 to my attack, so a grand total, I get an attack roll of 21. I charge off the table. I leap at the dragon. I rolled, got a nat 20. Now, normally in 3rd edition D&D, skeletons cannot be crit because they have no vital organs. But Mikey Mike had a rule that if you rolled a nat 20 and then you rolled another nat 20 to confirm it, he said, you instantly kill the creature. Right? So, on top of the fact that they weren't vulnerable to bludgeoning damage back then, but bludgeoning damage ignored their damage reduction. So, I leap off the table, I roll and get that nat 20, and he's like, "All right, roll to confirm it." I rolled. It bounced around the table, because I just slung it. Bounced around the table, fell off the table. Merrick... It rolls next to Merrick. And again, like I said, Merrick didn't really say anything, right? And all of the lines, the one-liners that he said were hilarious every time he did. Bounces over and hits Merrick in the shoe. He looks down and goes, "Huh, that's a nat 20. And everybody at the table just erupted. I'm like, oh yes. I slam into this thing. do all of this damage. The DM's like, all right, man, you killed it in one shot. And I'm like, Grug picks himself up off the floor. He's like, yeah, you fell like 20 feet, but who cares? You're a barbarian. No, it's a drop in the bucket at this point. Pick myself up off the floor. I'm covered in bone dust and dragon scales. I just hold the spoon aloft and go, spoon! And that became Grug's battle cry from then on. Didn't use an axe anymore. Only used the bonk spoon. Fast forward to the end of this game. Grug went back home to his tribe, got into the fight with the chieftain, beat the brakes off the chieftain and became the new chieftain, and forcibly converted his entire tribe of like 200 ogres to start worshiping the Great Firebird. Everywhere he went, he demanded that people worship the Great Firebird. We show up in front of the gods. We're like level 17 at this point. I have taken 2 levels of cleric. My god was the Great Firebird. The gods themselves looked at me and goes, what the is that? Why is that a thing? And I'm sitting there and I'm wearing like robes, clerical vestments.
Of course.
I'm not wearing armor.
No.
Who needs armor? I
You're
have
a
the
barbarian.
protection of my god.
Yeah, you're the protection of my god.
Which I have unarmored defense.
Yeah.
Right? So I got that bonus to my armor class based on unarmored defense.
Which at that point, you said at 17th level.
17th level.
Half ogre barbarian, you would probably have...
Oh, I went into War Hulk, which was a prestige class from back in the day.
Yep.
That did not get attack bonus.
Yep.
They got +2 to their strength every level.
Which is insanely broken.
And I had, at that point, I had like 5 levels in it. So I had +10 to my strength. On top of the 32 strength that I already had. So I had a 42 strength at this point. It was stupid. It was stupid. The fact that the DM even let me get that strong was stupid. And when I raged, I could increase my size another category.
So you could go from large to huge.
Yes. And if I had kept going in that class, I could eventually go up 2 size categories.
So you would go from huge to gargantuan. So you would be like the same size class as, adult dragons.
Adult dragons.
And Tarrasques.
Tarrasques
were colossal. That's right.
They were colossal plus, which meant they were bigger than colossal.
Yes. I forgot that colossal was like... Because I think in new D&D they don't do colossal anymore. It just goes up to gargantuan.
It's gargantuan, and then everything is basically just gargantuan plus.
Yeah.
So Tarrasques are supposed to be like 4x4 squares, but they're actually much, much bigger.
Yes.
So, we're standing before these gods, right? And the chief deity of this pantheon basically is just like, what the is that? Why is that a thing? That should not be a thing. And I'm like, you dare disrespect the high priest of the Great Firebird.
Do you say it that way every time? Too?
Every time. Every time. It was a rule. The Great Firebird. And,
I've got to ask, so is anyone in chat reacting to this story right now?
Not really.
Not really? Oh, that makes me sad.
It's fine. It'll be recorded. They can react to it on YouTube. So this god is just literally like, okay, no, hang on a second. And he summons the phoenix.
Just summons it.
Just snaps his fingers and just summons the phoenix. I think he was like extraplanar ally and just summons the phoenix. The phoenix is now there in the court and it's just like, explain. And it just goes like this giant bird and of course
Grug just
as soon as the bird appears, Grug turns and sees his god and then just immediately falls to his knees. Oh, Great Firebird, bless your servant, Grug. And it's just like, man, I ain't got nothing to do with this. And they're like, well, he's worshiping you. He's got a tribe of ogres worshiping you. Everybody that they conquer is being forcibly converted to worship you. And somehow that is getting spells. That is somehow getting spells. Explain. And it's just like, I got nothing, man. I didn't do it. It just happened. And so basically Grug took offense that this god was insulting his god, who is obviously so much more powerful than that god, and ends up fighting the god. Just flies into a rage, Enoch chucks to a bigger size, and just starts going to town on this god.
I just love that 3rd edition you could pull off stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and by this point we had like god level artifacts, right?
Yeah,
so we had powerful equipment, and I specifically had picked up. So there was an item in the campaign. There was we had to kill the god who was like going insane, right? Forget the reason why, it was decades ago, but basically the god went insane, and we were tasked with putting them down, basically. Mm-hmm. But in 3rd edition, if you killed a god, it left a vacuum basically in that space.
Yeah.
And it needed to be replaced by another god.
Yes.
So we start a fight with the gods. It does not go very well.
Of course not.
Most of my party is just getting their teeth kicked in.
Because it's a god.
It's a god. All the other gods are not intervening. They're like, this guy was crazy. We're going to back off and see how this pans out.
Yeah.
So... earlier in the campaign, like I said, Grug was getting spells. He was getting power. They had no idea how this was happening. We went to the 9 hells, knocked on some greater demon's door, and absolutely put the boots to him. Like, mm-hmm. Grug was not having it, and forced this demon to serve the Firebird. And so he made a contract without realizing he made a contract, right? And it's a devil, not a demon. Yep. It was a devil. So we made a contract that he could basically sacrifice something of worth, something of value, for an equivalent amount of power, just a big burst of power, yes. Right? So Grug has this like tattoo carved to his chest. He's still walking around rocking the, shirtless, and just has this big billowing cloak of phoenix feathers.
That's sick.
And is wielding like the bonk spoon, which becomes this like artifact dedicated to the Firebird. It's like wreathed in flames and all that. He had the wizard in the party enchant the shit out of it. So it's like a +5 bludgeoning weapon with impact and like flaming burst. So he's like just trying to go to toe with this god, and he has this contract, and he goes, Grug need power. Grug need to save friends. Grug need to honor Firebird. Grug give you his soul.
Uh-oh. No.
And he sacrificed his soul and burned his soul to empower him to have enough strength to lay low this god. And the DM was just floored by this. He's like, you did what now?
You excuse me?
I'm sorry, say that again?
It's like the second you say that, I'm just, no.
I said Grug sacrifices his soul for 30 seconds of power. He needs 30 seconds of power at most. Mm-hmm. So one more attack. No, 30 seconds is 5
turns. That's right. I'm used to Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk, it's 3-second turns.
Right, 3-second turns. So he's like, give him 30 seconds. 5 turns. That's all I want. And at the end of 5 turns, his soul burns out completely, and he dies.
Yeah.
He's gone. And Mike was like, done. He's like, all of your stats increase by like 20. You gain a divine rank of 0, which means you're a demigod. Mm-hmm. And so you basically you are the avatar of your god, the Phoenix, the Firebird, right? And he's like, that cloak transforms into large, red fiery wings. He's like, the spoon that you've been wielding around glows white hot with like power, and you see a look of fear cross over the god's face. And I'm like, Grug takes a full attack action and just goes to town. He's raging. He's got all this power behind him. He's got +20 to all his stats. Yep. He's rocking and just hammers. Boom, hammer, boom, hammer, boom. And because it was power like this, like just this raw power, he's like, somehow you managed to short out the god's divine protection, which stops him from taking damage.
Yep.
And just goes bam, bam, bam. He's like, he gave this god like 500 hit points of damage. I rolled 3 nat 20s.
Oh my god.
First attack, just a regular hit. Second attack, regular hit. Third attack, nat 20. He's like, all right, confirm it, because you had to confirm crits back then.
Yes.
Rolled it again, nat 20. And he's like, there's no way. There's no way. I'm saying, look, it's right there. He's like, you know what? Do it again. And he hands me, we had this, we called the liar's die. It's basically a giant D20. He's like, roll this. And I'm like, bet. And I said, oh, great Firebird, bless to Grug. And I just chucked that thing across the table. It went boom, 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 nat 20. 3 nat 20s in a row. He's like, you kill a god instantly.
I think that's fair for
Dead.
3 nat 20s.
He's like, everybody just exploded, like, yeah, everybody's cheering, everybody's going ape shit, like, friggin', you know, Mike just takes his friggin' notes and just throws them up in the air.
Yeah, it's like, what do you do at that point?
And I was like, Grug turns to his friends, the ones that he's been traveling with this whole time. He's got about 12 seconds left.
Yeah.
And just goes, Grug had fun, and then dies.
Yeah.
His soul burns away.
And he just drops.
And they're like, I cast True Resurrection. They're like, our cleric, I cast True Resurrection. They go, his soul is gone. You cannot revive him.
The only way they'd be able to revive him is if they found the devil.
No.
Oh no, because it wasn't even given to
it.
It just
given
burned
to
up.
the devil. It just burned his soul. His soul was ceased to exist.
You cannot resurrect that.
Nope.
Even with a wish spell, you couldn't.
Nope. He has no soul now. There is nothing to bring back. And they were like, Lisa started crying. Jake had to get up from the table and walk away. Merrick was like, wow. I'm like, the man of many words. The Merrick reaction. He's just like, wow. And then Mike was like, dude, that was awesome. He's like, never do that shit again, but that was awesome. And so, like, they're like, okay, so they all came back together, and I'm just like, I ripped the character sheet in half. I'm just like,
never coming back.
He's dead. He's gone. He's
dead.
Never coming back. So they were like, well, what do we do? Like, the god's dead now. All the other gods were just like, I don't know. We don't know. And the person that killed him, like I said, the rules in Mike's game was that if you killed the god, you took his place. Yeah. But there was nothing to take his place. So there was just a vacuum. And so I looked at Mike, and I looked at the party, and I slid a note. And I told him that the Firebird should take on the divine ranks.
So it actually becomes...
And I was like, the god of Grug now becomes an actual god. And he was really cool about it. He was like, dude, that's a genius idea. I love it.
Yeah.
So he was like, yeah, so the energy that is the divinity, this divine ranks that just are culminated in the body of this dead god that now like rises up into the ether, slams into the chest of this phoenix. And it begins like burning and screaming as the power just rushes into it, and you see it transforming, and basically it took on the role of the new sun god.
Okay, that makes sense.
And he said that she transforms from a bird into the form of a woman in a red dress with feather adornments, and she has like falcon-like eyes. And her hands end in like talons, and she's wreathed in flames. And she becomes the new sun god. I think he named her Perina or something like that.
Yeah.
And she grants a blessing to like the whole party. She thanks them for their labors. Still doesn't know how the hell this happened, but it did.
Happened. We're here now.
And so she sent the players back to the mortal realms, and they kind of finished out their own stories, but every single one of them say, they're like, we come together every single year at the tavern in Sharn. They bought the tavern and renamed it Face Smashers.
That's great.
And there is a full-size portrait of Grug hanging over the fireplace. with his bonk spoon.
That's great.
Wreathed in flames with the phoenix, the new sun god behind him. And like that's how they honored him. It's like every year they come back to that tavern and they all raise a glass for Grug in remembrance of Grug, because like that ultimately was probably my favorite character I've ever played in any campaign, just because of the insane. I didn't even tell you about the magma shark.
I was gonna say, and we're hitting a point where I can't follow up the story at this point. I can't follow this up. I don't have anything that matches that. And it's 7:00. We've been going for 2 hours now.
We've been going for 2 hours. We're at an hour and 46 minutes on this recording.
You can tell me about I want to hear about the fire shark. Magma shark after.
The flying magma shark.
Because we need to hit our contractual obligations.
Yes, unfortunately our time is over, and I can't share any more of these crazy stories with you.
It's not even that, like we're being forced to stop or anything. It's just we got to get about our day.
We do have to get about our day. Somebody has to go back to work.
Yeah, I know. Darn, I can't keep talking all day. Quick things to just hit on. Sure. Patreon.
Yes, so we have a Patreon now. I believe the Surface Dweller is the first tier.
Yep.
And that gets you the videos ahead of time.
Yes, for the D&D campaign.
For the D&D campaign, yeah. So Patreons can get a link to go to the private video that is the one-shots, the 2 one-shots that we did. Let's see, what else? I think one of the higher tiers, you can design your own magic item, and it will show up in the game that we're recording, that we're going to be recording. Whether the players use it or not is kind of up to them.
But it will show.
But it will show up, and you get to design this thing. Like, it's all up to y'all. So if you make it up to that tier, you can put some crazy or dumb or amazing item, any item you want in the game.
Yeah, and there's a ton of other things that you can get as well.
Yeah, we have a couple of other tiers.
We've bolstered it out pretty well.
I think one of them like design an NPC or something.
Something like that, yeah. I was gonna say I haven't looked it over since the initial like building it up.
Right.
But I need to look over it.
I definitely want to look into it because I plan on subscribing.
Yeah, of course.
Not just because I'm supporting the store, but because I actually do want to watch this thing.
Yeah. Trying to think of anything else that we needed to
really hit on. Obviously the announcement we were gonna hit. They have the final cast chosen.
Yes.
They are actually in the campaign room right now, building their characters for this campaign, and we're looking to start releasing those videos end of April-ish. We don't have like a specific date just yet. We'll definitely tell you guys more about it later. But yeah, so we're gonna have that going pretty soon.
Other quick things to hit on. We do have a sale running this month every single day. We're
the 30 days of sales of March. 30
days of sales for March. Today we did all St. Patty's theme, so everything green was on sale.
Okay.
And then we're back to our normal schedule of just different board games and different little other knick-knack accessories around the store.
And you got to follow us on Facebook to find out what's on sale. Or come in the store.
Or pop in, yes. But, yeah. Those are the 2 big things, and then...
Be sure to come back tomorrow at 7 for Swabbing Decks. We're going to be doing Star Wars this week.
Doing the little pre-release.
And it's going to be a miniature pre-release. So they've got 1 pre-release kit. I have some pieces from a second pre-release kit that I picked up, and then they're just going to be running a couple of packs, and we'll see where it ends up.
I'm really excited. Hopefully we see a showcase crack.
That would be good, and it would be funny to me 100% if Joey's the one that cracks it. It's kind of a thing. There have been a lot of showcases.
Spencer's not allowed to open them.
Spencer doesn't get them.
He just doesn't. He's not allowed. Definitely not on camera.
Definitely not on camera.
But besides that, obviously, check us out online. Order singles or just any product that you want.
Any singles that we have online are 10% off online.
That's true. That's a big deal. That saves a lot of money.
It does.
We just had an order come through today. It was like a $133 order. With everything that he ordered, he saved like $30.
Oh yeah,
with a 10% off. Like that's a lot of money to save.
What else do we got going on? What other promotions are we doing?
Well, I guess really the last thing I want to mention is again the Warhammer tournament at the end of the month. Yep. We are full on slots for that, but keep an eye out.
I mean, eventually we're going to be able to open up for more once we start
Yes.
kind of getting some more play space put together.
I
So
was gonna
be
say,
on the lookout for that. I think that'll be coming fairly soon.
yeah, we're hoping. We're really fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. But otherwise, just check out with us next week. I'll probably tell my stories next week.
Yeah, there you go. give us some time to cool down a little bit,
cool
right?
down a little bit with the grug. You take off of the Firebird energy just a little bit. But
yeah, be sure to follow us on all social media. We're still doing the drawing for the sword.
Yeah, that's coming up real soon.
It's coming close. So be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, pretty much all the social medias.
Threads, AOL Messenger, MySpace.
God dang, you're pulling way out. AIM, really?
Yeah, AIM chat.
All right. And also our TCG team donation sweepstakes is still going on.
Yes, that one's still running.
That's going to be up until the 27th. We're going to actually do the drawing on the 27th, and we're going to do it on stream.
Which will be exciting.
So come in the store. For every we recommend a $10 donation, but if you don't, that's fine.
Yeah, whatever.
You can get a free entry. You just fill out the form and follow the instructions.
Sweepstake
on the email. Sweepstake rules. So it is not paid for entry.
Nope.
But we recommend a $10 donation to the TCG teams. We'll get you a ticket. Any donation really, but we'll get you a ticket in there.
Yep.
What else we got going on?
I think that's pretty much it for
That's
this
pretty
one.
much it. And that's a 50-50 sweepstakes. So whatever we've taken in for it, if your number gets pulled, you get half the proceeds.
Yeah. So I mean that's a lot to pick up. But anyways, it's been a ton of fun as always.
I always have fun doing these.
These are fun.
So I'm Nick the Red. With me, as always,
Tyler. I don't have a fun color after my name.
You really should just have yourself a call sign.
I'll pick something. I'll figure something out.
I'm gonna give him one if he don't hurry up.
If we can make it to like 50 episodes or something, I'll unveil something then.
To that.
That's cool. I'm down with that. Everyone can hold me to that.
All 5. That's all.
That's it. That's what I'm looking for.
I'm Nick the Red. With me, as always, is Tyler P. And good night.
Take it easy.